The Wize Way podcast, coming to you live again from Lawn.
That's it.
Welcome everyone. If you're watching this on YouTube, I put you on the spot for this podcast. It's 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Probably not.
Nice.
Just where you'd want to be, I'd say. But I did a little workout in your home gym this morning, and my marketing mind was racing, thinking that there was some great content to be captured here. But more importantly, I couldn't help but find that wherever I go in this beautiful house that you've created from scratch, I'm surrounded by little reminders of your dreams and your goals. And I don't think that's a coincidence or a fluke. I think that's designed. So I wanted to talk to you about dreams and goals and bringing those things to life, because we're in the midst of putting our workshop presentation together for our Wize Intensive in Brisbane. And a lot of that conversation has been around what it actually means to turn goals into reality, because we're heavily invested in helping people achieve their own goals. But sometimes, there's so much noise around it that it's hard to see, the forest for the trees. So I want to start by asking, where is when you look at your journey of setting goals and bringing those goals to life, what's worked, what hasn't, what did you learn that you had to unlearn? What comes to mind when we talk about goals?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind, I think, is just lacking knowledge. Without the knowledge of how to get there, that's the most difficult bit, because we're born into the world and we don't really have an instruction book. We don't have any book to work out how do we actually get the best out of ourselves. So that's part of the problem, is not having the knowledge to work out how to get from A to Z. But once you get the knowledge, and you got to overlay that with consistency and persistency. I think most people can tend to give up. We can tend to give up too early. When I bought my first business, really without much help or any guidance, I lost a truckload of money. So I could have given up. I could have given up at that point and said, this doesn't work, so I'm not going to do that again. But thank goodness went on to buy probably 9 to 10 other businesses, and majority all them worked out. So I think we give up too early. Once we do find the knowledge, I think most of us give up too early. So it's probably the 80-20 rule. You might have 20% of failures, but if you don't give up, the other 80% are going to way outweigh what failures you do have. So I think the sort of two big factors is, one, you've got to find the knowledge of how to get to your goals and fulfill your dreams, and that's going to be a journey. It's not going to be a short-term quick fix. But the other one is just dogged persistency. It's what the Winston Churchill, never surrender. You've got to have that mentality, and the way to have that persistency, consistency is to tie the destination, is to tie the journey to the destination. So if your why is big enough and you know why you want to get there, you just won't stop, because whatever your goals are, whether it's building software, whether it's changing careers or whatever, if that's part of your why, and you align that almost to your DNA, you don't need motivation. Everyone talks about being motivated, but I found after a while, I don't even need motivation, because you become, in essence, what you want. So you'll find that what happens is, when you're in the right zone, your work becomes your fun. because a lot of people say about work-life balance.
Yeah.
I've got to have work-life balance. You move way beyond that. Your work becomes your life, but not in a bad way. Because it comes back to the old saying, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think that's probably the goal that people need to say, well, I love what I do and I'll never work a day in my life. And that's where the motivation just exits out, the back door, and then you're just pulled along. Because you love what you do.
You've got that pulling force rather than having to brute force.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like the chat this morning we had with a chap in the US. He's thinking about a massive commitment to building some software, and I always sort of really go back to basic principles. Is this part of your why?
Mm-hmm.
And not just flippantly saying it, because building software can get difficult, or achieving any goal can get difficult. So if it's not actually attached to your why, you'll give up.
Yeah.
But the other part of it, as I said earlier, is getting the knowledge, and I think that's a big part of the problem, is that we don't have the knowledge. Like, school teaches us a certain thing to probably be an employee, but it doesn't really get you to think for yourself and imagine and create what you actually want to do, or who you want to become.
Who you want to be.
Who you want to be. So it's sort of more, school probably focuses more on just, what your strengths are. You're good at chemistry, you're good at maths, or you might be good with your hands. But I think your career and your life is much bigger than that. So it's like, who do you want to become? Who do you want to influence? And probably how do you want to be remembered?
Mm-hmm.
At least by your immediate family. And in essence, it's we're only here for a short amount of time. So why not do something you love? Because, 1 or 2 or 3 generations from now, no one's going to remember you.
Yeah.
No one's even going to care,
I heard something yesterday where he was talking about, everyone preaching, we have to have purpose and know exactly what your purpose is. And then he's like, but sometimes I think I'm a tiny little pinprick on this rock that's spinning around the sun at a million miles an hour in a universe that's like one galaxy of 100 million galaxies. So I think we can take ourselves a little bit too seriously sometimes and then lose perspective of, like you said, and we were talking about dogs yesterday, and we're like, why are dogs so happy? Yeah. Because they know they've got 12 to 14 years on this planet and they squeeze every ounce of it out.
It's like every time you come out and see the dog again half an hour later, it's like, oh, I haven't seen you for years, and they're jumping all over and they're so happy. Yeah, they've got to pack all their life down in just 10 years, more or less.
So I find
it's like a dog.
Absolutely. I find it's interesting, right? I like asking people, and all different colors of life, old people, young people, what their theme is for the year, what their goals are, and what I've noticed is people are very quick to tell you what they don't want. They're really quick to tell you what they don't want, but struggle to tell you what they do want. And then when they have the choice between surviving and thriving, they resort to, I just want to survive. I just want you to talk to that, because I find that really interesting, and whether that's a biological thing or are we hardwired that way and we have to overcome that. What's your thoughts?
I think it's just a psychological point that you make there, and the fact that a lot of people make short-term decisions is because they don't know what their values are. So they don't know what their values are. They're not clear on what they actually believe. They're not clear on who they want to become. And they're also not clear on sort of the really strategic goals of, say, for example, when they're 60, what they want their life to actually be like. I mean, these days when you're 60, the average lifespan's 80, but the way we're going, I think, it keeps getting extended. And so you've got another 20 or 30 years to live, and that's a long time.
Yeah.
So I think it's lack of clarity. So unless you're clear on your values, your purpose, your meaning, your why, your beliefs, you will tend to make you'll absolutely make short-term decisions that aren't in alignment with what you really want long-term. So, it always fascinates me, Bren, that, when we go on a holiday, last year we went on a holiday, first family holiday ever to Europe, and everything was mapped out, like where we stopped, how long we'd stay, what transportation we'd take. And when you think about it with our lives, we don't do any of that. Like, we don't do any of that. So half the time we're not really clear on what we value. Like, it's never in writing.
Yeah.
Whereas when you plan a holiday, it's like in writing.
Everything's mapped.
Everyone's got a copy. So everyone's got a copy of that plan.
Other people know about it.
Other people know about it. Yeah. That's just your holiday.
Yeah.
Like, isn't your life so much more important?
Yeah.
Like, if you've got a partner, do they know what you actually want and who you want to become, what your values are, what your beliefs are? Like, it's we might call it the inner work, but unless you have that, your circumstances will pull you here, pull you there, and it's all short-term thinking. And it's a bit like, I think, social media and society, it's always instant gratification, isn't it? It's like always instant. But
yeah, that's the interesting thing, right? At the moment, right? It's like the things that come to mind for me is like the protein bars and the Ozempic fat loss drugs and the AI. It's like every one of these things is trying to shortcut the work or the journey.
It's like hiring. People say, I just want to hire someone. They say, I just want to hire someone who can do the job. I don't want to invest in them. I don't want to have to train them, and they're looking for a superstar. It doesn't work like that. Like, I can think of half a dozen things right now that I've literally been working on for 10 years. Like, not 1 year, not 5 years. It's like Dan Martell says, have you got a 10-year plan?
Yeah.
Like, heaps of things I've done, I started thinking about when I was like in my 30s.
Yeah.
Or 40s. I'm, in the 50s now. But, if you ask people these days, probably just in the street, have you got a 10-year goal? Imagine if you did you'd probably find no one, to 1% would actually say, yeah, I've actually got a 10-year written plan. I know what that is.
Yeah. And here it is.
and here it is.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of the problem is that everything's so short-sighted.
Yeah.
Instant gratification.
One of the things I love that you said over the last couple of days when we've been mapping this presentation out was if you don't have that plan, you'll fall into someone else's. Someone else will make a plan for you. And, in the context of our work, you said, I didn't have a plan. And then the government gave me my plan because it was, you do the next tax return. Because
my plan was do the next tax return. That's right. Back when I was on the tools, if you like.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And I want to talk to you about it in the context of the youth and our next generation coming through, because for anyone who knows you, you're not shy of sparking up a conversation with a stranger in the street, which I think is a great quality. But I just could, if I look back over the last year, you've probably had a dozen conversations with parents of, youth or young adults. And when you talk to them about what you do, their immediate reaction is, can you do something with my kids? Because they have no idea what they want to do in their life. And, they're totally lost. And, we talk about this often. It's fascinating because, we're sitting here in May 2026 in this revolution of AI, and every social media company in the world, their mission is to connect everyone and, to empower everyone.
Yeah.
Yet the everyday parent is so concerned about their kids.
Yeah. That's a whole nother topic, but it's an interesting one because parents do ask me, they say, how can I get my kids to find like what they should be doing and what they enjoy doing? And like, often it's like someone who's like 25, even 30, still living at home.
Yeah.
They say, well, we can't afford, the house that I want. But, the fact is, I think with that generation, or potentially the younger generation, they want to go like from A to Z straight away, you know. To get into my dream home, you know, over my lifetime, I think I had 6 or 7 different houses. So, you know, you got to think about, is it the instant gratification the problem? Is it the economy's the problem? Is the weather the problem? Is the government the problem? Like you can blame everything.
Yeah.
But unless you learn that you've got to like buy a little house, start really small, renovate it, run down, and then take another step instead of buying a brand new house with all brand new furniture.
Yeah.
You know, that's going A to Z. That's not reality. That's not reality. So, you know, part of the problem is that I think the younger generation has just been brought up with, you know, the iPhone, and it's like an instant click.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, bang, I've got it, you know, I've got it.
Yeah.
Life just, like, reality doesn't work like that.
And also they've been, you know, told by their parents and everything that they're a winner all the time and that they can, you know, they can have things instantly. And so you can see from their perspective, it's almost like their programming's been programmed in a certain way, but then they set up for failure.
Yeah.
When it comes to actual living in the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole topic, but, you know, I think.
Well, what would you say to someone who's in their sort of mid-20s, even in, you know, thinking about in their foray into the accounting world, because everyone listening, most listening are entrepreneurial accountants. What would you say to that mid-20-year-old on this topic of goal planning? Like, where do they start?
Yeah, well, look, the first step is really understanding what is it you want. And, you know, one of the greatest tools we ever do is what we call the 7 stories. So with the 7 stories process, in essence, you've really got to determine, you know, probably 7 of your greatest, memorable, proudest moments you've ever had. And once you document that and take that and sort of, again, you can use AI because it is good. You can sort of put your 7 stories in your AI and basically say, you know, based on my traits, based on my character strengths, what are the top 3 professions that would suit me? You know, or even further, get your actual position description. So, you know, if you listen to this and you've got your position description and you do the 7 stories, put that in AI and say, you know, based on my 7 stories, which are my top life and professional achievements, does this role I have actually suit that? And if, you know, and then you can say, give me a 1 to 10, and it will tell you, you know, if it's a good fit or not. Like that's one of the best places to start. The key to the 7 stories is in the details. So for each most memorable, proudest moment, you know, if you can write about 200 words, and I always say in 5 areas: what, when, where, how, why, and who. Like, yeah. So the more detail you can put in that, feed that into the AI, you really get to understand what you're good at and what your character traits are. And then from that, you know, the AI will help you really match. Yes, you should be in this role, and it's a 9 out of 10 or it's a 10 out of 10 match, versus, look, this role really doesn't suit you. For whatever reason, you've landed on your feet in this career, and so you need to take another path. You know, I'm told it's one of the things that Harvard University and Yale in the US use to help their graduates determine, or their students, what they should be doing.
That's really interesting. And you know, I've seen that process firsthand, and it's fascinating from an employer perspective to get an insight into that. You're a team member, but for a team member to have that tool to kind of cut through that noise and give them perspective on what their career pathway could look like if they were to lean into their strengths.
And the thing on that too is, like, as people, our personalities, it's a bit like an iceberg, that analogy of an iceberg. Like, we only really see the 10%, the top of the iceberg. Like, that's what people are like. Like, we don't actually see the 90% that sits under the water. So what you want to do as an individual or an employer is to find out the 90%, because it's actually the 90% that will count in the most difficult times in the career, and whether you move forward or not. So, Dr. Stephen Covey calls it the personality versus the character ethic. So he did like a 200-year study of what success and happiness means. And he found that a lot of people can just focus on the personality ethic, which is sort of driven by your ego, status, social media.
It's like the external.
Yeah. But often it's like unfulfilling. And like that's why you tend to see a lot of very famous and rich and wealthy people who, are probably some of the most unhappiest people you would meet, because they focus on the personality ethic and not the character ethic, not who they really should be and what they value.
Okay. Yeah. So under this sort of umbrella of goal setting, there's a spectrum of spiritual knowledge, so the law of attraction and things like that, and then all the way over to neuroscience, where we're talking about the brain and the reticular activating system, which I want to touch on in a second. So there's all these different facets of how people think about goals. Across all of them, what's resonated most with you? Like, what's really clicked in terms of I get it.
Yeah, I think there's 2 or 3 frameworks that sort of come to mind that really click for me. I would say the first one would be the 3 R's. So a few years ago, I read a book called, because I knew that I wanted to change. Like the first realization is take responsibility for yourself. That's sort of like the first realization. Like, no one's coming to save me. No one's coming to save us, Brent. Like, it's me, and I'm out in this ocean by myself. That's what you have to realize. Once you realize that, you've got to say to yourself, well, in order to get to where I want to go, get to my dreams and goals, like, what do I need? And so in essence, change or die, it's a deep dive into how to actually change yourself. And the book's really fascinating, right? Because it talks about hardened criminals, people who are about to die, and either the correctional system says, look, if you keep doing this, you're going to get shot, or if you keep doing this, you're going to have a heart attack in 6 months. And it's really scary, because the author says, and based on his research, that only about 10% of people actually implement sustained change. And so I use that on myself, like business purposes and business coaching. But the solution is the 3 R's, and it's really fascinating. And so he talks about, if you actually want to have sustained change, you need 3 R's. And the first R is relation, the second R is repeat, and the third R is review. And so what the author says is that in order to have sustained change, you've got to relate to someone at an emotional and an intellectual level, like a tribe or a community or a person who's got what you want. That's the important bit. So that tribe, if you like, or that community, that person who's got what you want. And so you can use that if you want to be a triathlete. If you want to be a sprinter, if you want to be, like a top class swimmer. So again, if you want to be a really good business person, you have to find your tribe. We've spoken about this, like we've analysed this, like you have to find your tribe. You've got to surround yourself with people who have got what you want, because they've got the knowledge, right?
I even think because sometimes we fall into the trap and go, that's fine for those roles, because I can go and easily find an elite swimmer or whatever. But even if you're in an admin role or a customer service role or an accountant role, it still applies, right? Like you can you can jump onto LinkedIn and find amazing customer service, successful professionals. Reach out to them and build that relationship.
Exactly.
So nothing's off limits. There's no boundaries.
There's no boundaries to it. No. So that's the first R. And then the second R is repeat. You have to repeat the skill or the knowledge that they tell you, but over the long term, not like just, we'll do this for a month, or I'll do this for 3 months. You in essence, you got to commit to it until their way of thinking and the skills and the knowledge that they give you is ingrained in your DNA, is ingrained in your habits. So whether that's 1 year or 3 years, it's really up to you. What I have found is about 3 years on average is the time that it takes, like, to maintain sustainable change. And if you think about it, like everyone, a lot of people will do some sort of apprenticeship, right? I'll do a university undergraduate degree. All of those are 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So this whole process is just like that university of life changed myself. So you've got to repeat what they do. And the beautiful thing about that is that when you get involved in a community, even a community like Wize, what happens straight away? You get to meet everyone, and all the events go in your calendar. It's no different with a personal trainer or that tribe. It goes in your calendar. And when it goes in the calendar, 80% of it's just turning up. Like, it's literally just turn up. Just get out of bed and just don't overthink it, and turn up. Because when you're there, the other 20% will happen. And then the last change is to review or reflect. So the last R of the 3 R's is to, once a week at least, I actually have in my own calendar on a Sunday arvo.
So,
How did I go this week? And just spend 5-10 minutes saying, was I a better version of myself today than I was a week ago? Like, did I behave? Did I conduct myself? And did I actually put things into action that actually improved my situation and didn't make it go backwards?
Yeah.
Because the fact is, every thought, every situation, every interaction you have with someone every day, it's either moving you forward or it's moving you backwards. And that's the reality and the brutality of life. Like, what you think will determine like your decisions on how you interact with people. Your decisions then will determine your actions. Your actions then will determine, in essence, your character, and then your character will determine your destiny. So, so we come down from really high level goals, dreams. How do we get them? Personal mission statement development. And then you get down to the reality of just applying the 3 R's, and then that's practical. Because you always say to me, hey, Jamie, I know all this theory, but how do I actually use that today?
Yeah.
Now,
What does it mean?
What does it mean to me right now?
Yeah.
And, you don't want to overthink this. What it means right now is that if I look at my calendar now and it says that at 5:30 I'm going to go do sprint training, I'm going to do sprint training. Yeah. That's where transformation lives. People want transformation. It lives in your calendar. So if I see anyone's calendar, if I look at your calendar, right, and I know you've just begun the journey and you're not on automation, I'll say, hey, Bren, where's your exercise in your calendar? Where's the family time in your calendar? Where's delegating in your calendar? Where's helping others in your calendar? Where's picking up rubbish in your calendar? Right? So once that's in your calendar and you're living that, right, then you're creating new habits.
And then you're sort of firing and connecting, making those new connections. Yeah.
That's right, because then you get to the point where I think I'm at is like what I call unconscious competency. And this is the other framework that I was talking about, right, is on this whole journey, we go through 4 levels of learning, So the first level is you don't know what you don't know, right? You literally don't know what you don't know. So get rid of the ego. You haven't got your dreams and goals. So get rid of your ego and never say, oh, I'm different. A lot of time we hear, I'm different, Jamie. My business is different. And
this won't work for me because.
This won't work for me because we have X, Y, and Z. I've heard it a million times now, right? But in essence, people have to get rid of the ego and say, I don't know what I don't know. And what that means is you're unconscious of your incompetency. So you're at stage 1. Stage 2 is you've dropped the ego and you're willing to listen to the tribe. You're willing to listen to the community, right? And then you go, oh, I've been doing this wrong. I've been following this procedure, or I don't have a procedure, or I haven't been following that process, but the tribe says this is how we do it. And then you drop the ego, and then all of a sudden the light bulb goes on and you're conscious of your incompetency. So you're aware. Great leadership is having aware of where you're stuffing up. So that's like stage 2.
Mm-hmm.
and then what happens at stage 3 is you go to another level of learning, and you become conscious or aware of your competency.
Mm-hmm.
So you start developing new habits, and you're just like, oh, if I do this, I get that result, right? But you're sort of like, you actually have to think it through a lot more. It's like, oh, got to remember to follow that process. I've got to remember to follow this and whatever. So that's like conscious of your competency. And then the last level of learning, once you've ingrained this new way of life, this new way of thinking, this new way of doing business, then you move to like stage 4, which is like, like when Luke Skywalker, he becomes a Jedi Knight master. He graduates, and you remember in the start when he's trying to get the sword out of the snow, and it's a real struggle. And then when he's a Jedi Knight master, he just like thinks it, and that's just happens. And that's what we call unconscious competency. So you're unconscious; it's ingrained in you of your competency. So you don't need all that stuff in your calendar, right? So you just remove all that because you're on autopilot.
But then also there's levels to the game. So it's like a repeating loop, isn't it? That 4 phases, because then you go to that next level of what am I? Unconscious incompetence. Like it's that next layer of thinking, or your frequency kind of goes up. So that just repeats.
It just repeats, particularly in the context of another goal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like me, say, wanting to play drums. So same 4 levels. I don't know what I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to play a drum, right?
Yeah.
So you get rid of the ego. You got to get rid of the ego is the enemy in this stuff. Like, there's a lot of discussion about what the ego and like who you should be and all that sort of thing. So if I wanted to play drums, I'm going to start at I'm going to go through the 4 levels again. If I want to build a big business, I'm going to go through the 4 levels again. It just repeats itself. And, probably the last framework that comes to mind from your question a few minutes ago was the rule of 33.
Mm-hmm.
The rule of 33 is very much related to the 3 R's, but in essence, it's learn, share, teach. And so anyone who really wants to achieve their goal should spend a third of their time with their mentor, with a coach. How often are we seen in the sporting world, even young kids, we all have coaches,
mm-hmm.
And this is what fascinates me about business. So many people are in small businesses, like all over the globe.
Yeah, millions.
And do they have a coach?
Very, very few, less than 1%.
Like, how much time do they spend there?
Mm-hmm.
More time with their family.
More time than they thought they were going to.
Yeah, like how much do they invest in their business?
Yeah, there's a mortgage against the house normally.
Get a coach for crying out loud. Like, so spend a third of your time with someone who's got what you want, who's done it, who's been there, and can avoid all the roadblocks.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is share that knowledge with your peers or small business people or in your industry, in your community,
your tribe,
in your tribe, because like you either need 1 little % of idea. Oh, we use this software to do this,
mm-hmm.
and so just ideas is so much better than time. So that's the other 33%, and the last 33% is to give back. And what we mean by that is like teach other people or pay it forward. So what you learn from that mentor that you're hanging out with a third, teach other people that.
Become the mentor.
Become the mentor. Yeah. I know in our workshops, I love that question. I'll say to everyone, and it doesn't matter if it's 50 people or 100 people, Bren, I'll say, everyone, put in the chat the one person who gave you an opportunity. Put in the chat the one person who had an impact on you, gave you a chance, right? And like almost instantly, everyone will go, they'll know exactly who it is, right? And it's like because they had an impact. Mm-hmm. And then I reverse it and I say, okay, who are you going to be the hero for?
Mm.
And they're like,
it's
like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't know. You should know. You should know. Like,
intention.
Yeah, I know right now instantly probably 5 or 6 people that I've had like a definitive 100% impact on their lives and how they think. Like 10 years ago, I didn't think like that, but that's what I'm saying. Like, pay it back, and a lot of the time too, you want to sort of do it in private. You don't have to tell the world about, I'm helping a guy from Spain who I met, just out of the goodness of my heart. Mm-hmm. That's just something that you want to do to help. And, so it doesn't need to be public. It can be private or whatever, whoever you want to help, you just do it because you know what? It's bloody good for you. Mm. If you're sick and down and out and sitting at home alone, go to a nursing home and go and see some old people. Bring some flowers. Yeah. Like, go and talk to a stranger. Sitting on the park bench or whatever. Like, that's how you get out of that rut by helping others.
Help others.
There's always someone worse off.
Get away from yourself and open up to others.
Yeah.
So on that spectrum that I mentioned, one of the things that we've kind of locked onto recently and become quite fascinated with is the RAS system, or the reticular activated system, which is very fascinating. And for me, there's a lot of things that have clicked into place since discovering what this system is. So talk us through your version of what it is and what impact it can have on this goal setting.
Yeah, the goal setting process. Yeah. Well, sort of probably to give everyone context, when I was about 17, went through a really difficult patch, as most of us do in the teenage years. And so at that particular time, I think it was 1988, I wrote down some goals, like really big, heartfelt, like emotional goals of what I wanted to achieve. And little did I know at the time that I was reprogramming myself. Right? So looking back now, knowing this like psychological or
you're very advanced for a 17-year-old.
I was like a deep thinker. But little did I know I was actually reprogramming my brain. And there's this thing in our brain called the RAS, the reticular activating system. Yeah. And so what behavioural scientists have found is that at any point in time, I think it's 11 billion.
11 million.
11 million bits of information per second that our five senses are taking in. But this RAS, it's the main thing in your brain that filters like what you want to notice or have attention to or actually be aware of. Mm-hmm. It's like a filter. And so when I wrote down my goals at 17, all of a sudden, there's a filter. I'm starting to put a filter because our mind and brain and physical senses can only take in about 40 to 50 bits per second. So you're looking at 40 to 50 bits per second versus 11 million that we're actually hit with, and it's the RAS that filters it. So what actually happens is when you write down your beliefs, your values, and who you want to become, and you do that like in a very emotional and a personal sense, it then reprograms your RAS. So all of a sudden, in your life and in circumstances, you start noticing the person that can help you. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating. So you've hardwired your brain to say, oh, that person can help me with who I want to become. That person aligns with my beliefs and that person aligns with my values. So all of a sudden you'll get back to the office and you'll send that person an email and say, hey, look, there was a couple of things you said that caught my attention. How often we heard that? There was a couple of things you said that caught my attention. That's your RAS. Yeah. Right. And then you reach out and say, hey, can you help me with this? And then they go, yeah, I can help you with that. And then you're on your journey. Mm-hmm. Like you're fulfilling all the other frameworks, the 3 R's, the rule of 33. And then there'll be also other circumstances, for example, like where you'll do something, you'll fail, right? And then and fail is only fail if you give up, but you'll do something and you'll say, I'm going to try again because my RAS, my values, my beliefs is consistency and persistency. And I want to be remembered as a person who didn't give up, or, I want to be remembered by my family as someone who is determined So what's determined? Try again. So you're already building it in there. You know, you don't want to be remembered in your eulogy as, oh, Jamie gave up at every second little thing that happened. He just gave up.
Yeah.
Right. That's not in my Raz. Like, your Raz is the opposite. You never give up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like Elon Musk. You know, the guy interviewing him. He says, "What if you fail?" And then Elon Musk goes, "I'd rather be dead than give up." You know, that guy's Raz is like
locked on.
His Raz is like program. He would sacrifice, you know, probably too much.
Yeah.
People would say for the goal. You know, so but in history's hindsight, it is people like that are willing to sacrifice everything that actually move the human race forward.
Yeah, and we need those people, and I think sometimes judgment creeps in a little too quickly with those people. But again,
who criticise?
Yeah, we have to remove that.
Yeah. So this reticular activating system is scientifically basically proven. And so if you're not programming a brain, like if you're not programming your filter, then guess what is going to come in? Everything. You know, it's a bit like when you go into the service station and there's 10 chocolate bars there, right? You just go, oh, I'll just buy one. You know, I'll just have one of them.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit, you know, another analogy, everyone is like, you know, you're on that ocean out there and you're on a nice, most valuable ship. It's worth millions of dollars. It's really sophisticated ship, and it's got no rudder. It's got no compass. So that this beautiful ship, which is yourself, you know, most important thing in the world, which a human being is, it's got no direction.
Yeah. And you'll let the sea will take you where it wants to take you.
It'll take you where it wants. Yeah. So you've got to reprogram yourself and get that Raz into shape. And we've got tools to do that.
So let's bring this to a close with our one thing. Based on the conversation that we've had, what's the one thing that you'd like someone to take away from this conversation around goals?
Do we want an easy one or a hard one?
The right one.
The right one. Yeah,
Which is the one you think of first.
Yeah, the right one is, to be honest with everyone, is to write your own eulogy and then convert that to a personal mission statement. And if you take the time to do that, you can reach out to us to get a copy of how to do that. You're going to reprogram yourself, and you're going to adjust that Raz, and then the people, the circumstances, the tools, the resources, the support will all start turning up in your life, because your Raz will notice it. It's everything that we need is already there. I love how we talk about this. Like, everything that we need, it's already there. It's just that we got to get another torch, a light that's a bit different, and shine it on where the solution actually is in the dark room. So that's the takeaway.
I love it. Well, thank you. Great conversation as always. Cool. Hope everyone listening can take away something from that. That light's gone nice and dark there, so hope you could see us during that conversation. But see you next time, Jim.
Cheers. Thanks, mate.